what we're seeing at Whaler is that brands are increasing their investment into creative marketing between 30 to 40 to 50% year on year. It's working.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
because it's working.
Reach for growth, reach for more. Performance marketing, hardcore. Tune in, listen, hear the lore. Reach for growth.
Hi Emma, welcome to Reach for Growth.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you here. So Emma, tell me more about yourself. Like an introduction, sort of.
An intro, of course, I'd love to. I'm Emma and I lead Whaler Group across Europe, Middle East and Africa. Very proud to lead an absolutely incredible team focused on really how we drive growth for brands. But we also have an ecosystem of businesses at Whaler there to support the growth, career and development of creators too. Creators have been my world. Really, I've spent my whole career working with creators. Joined Fox Kids, which was the TV network when I first started my career, where I was really, working across all of their digital websites. Joined Universal Music, where I had an incredible career at Universal Music, running the brand partnerships team and really looking at how we can monetize artists from a brand partnerships perspective. Then went onto a creative platform called Talent House, where I ran the team in Los Angeles, and then moved on to Whaler. So I've been at Whaler now for 7 years.
Wow.
And our mission is to liberate the creative voice, which is really about, democratizing creativity to some degree and really tapping into these different voices, these different perspectives across the social ecosystem, and really working with brands to deliver exceptional growth and presence and really maximize their impact on social. So yeah, that's my journey.
No, let me tell you, you have a very extended journey, and the mission that you mentioned, it's very strong actually.
Liberating the creative voice.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that our chairman, Sir John Hegarty, who founded BBH, so one of the most revered global advertising agencies, he joined Whaler as our chairman very early on when the two founders started the business. And he very much, that was something that he coined, and it's just been a North Star for us. And it really helps keep us on track in terms of what we're trying to do. It's something that's really, really lovely for our employees to think about what our mission is. And I think in our space, sometimes you hear, oh, we're an influencer marketing platform. We think about what we're doing as just so much more dimensionalized than that. And I think the industry's seeing it now. We've sort of influencer marketing sort of 1.1 over here, and now we're moving into, creator economy, social 3.0, if you like. And actually, that's really nice. So liberating the creative voice is something that we're very, very proud of doing every day at Whaler.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And okay, so now let me ask you, so from your amazing experience, if I ask you, why do you think a lot of companies right now struggle when it comes to aligning understanding with creators? There are different, from my point of view, or at least what I observe, a lot of brands nowadays, they are not aligned with creators in terms of ways of working. Why do you think of that, and how can they avoid this?
Well, I've got a few different thoughts on this. It's interesting. This is just to start us off with here, but I gave a talk to about 60 CMOs. This was, a few months ago now. And behind me, I put all of the biggest creators on the screen. There was Mr. Beast in there. There was Logan Paul. There was KSI. There's Emma Chamberlain, Huda. The biggest creators, OGs, YouTubers, across the social ecosystem behind me. And I said to these 60 CMOs, from, really, really big brands, Fortune 500 brands, who are these creators? And actually, outside of Mr. Beast, none of them knew any of the creators behind me. And there was actually a waitress at the back of the room, and she sort of put her hand up. And I said, I was really surprised by that, actually. Even, I know that there is a kind of delta between, especially C-suite within brands and organisations, and what is really happening in social and in gaming and things like that. But there is such a delta still there, even though the attention is there. And I think just the whole entire approach to creators just has to shift, because brands just have to recognise that these are independent media companies. They are capturing audiences. They've got the imagination. They've got the narrative. They've got the storytelling capabilities. They own these incredible communities. They're world builders. And I think actually the approach to creators just has to be thought of in such a more mature way, rather than just thinking of it as, it's an influencer marketing thing. Let's just gift a bunch of influencers a bunch of free stuff,
Exactly, yeah.
which A, is like really unsustainable. B, these creators just get so much stuff. You can't control that. You can't get the rights to the content. There isn't really a co-creation element to that. And so I think that you should have a really well-intentioned strategic approach in terms of how you want to work with creators. What business objective are you trying to solve? Bring them as close to the brand as possible, pay them as well, get the rights, use their content, and just really look at things in a very holistic way. So I just think a more strategic approach is now required to this space generally. And we're starting to really see that from brands. They're really thinking about this now. They're hiring agencies like Whaler as specialists. They're not just bringing us on for campaigns, they're making us a creator AOR. So we're working across the entire social ecosystem for them. They want to put creators at the heart of their strategy. They want to bring them on board as creative directors. So I just think, the space is professionalising, and with that will become a better, co-creation process between the brand and the creator. So I think that, that's going to come as we, keep on seeing the results that this space is really driving for brands.
No, 100%. And you mentioned a lot of points that I want to deep dive into. But let me ask you first, also from your experience, what do you see are the most red flags when companies try to approach creators, and how can we avoid them?
Well, I think that I think there's always a sort of temptation to do this kind of one and done type thing. How do they do? Have they sold stuff? And just look at everything from a sort of purely conversion and sales basis. Certainly at Whaler, I think, and just from a marketing and branding perspective, really, we think more about, a longer term view on things. And I think when you think about, good storytelling, it embeds itself. When you look at the neuroscience, your brain thinks in stories, it thinks in music, it thinks in art, it thinks in visuals. And I think that, you can absolutely, when you think about running a creator campaign and the storytelling that's there and the intimacy the creator has with their audience, is it fair just to measure that based on one post? I'm not sure whether that's the answer, just one post. Are there sales attached to that? Or actually, maybe someone has seen that and then a year later, they'll go and take that test drive or they'll go and buy that lipstick. And I think, unfortunately, there's still such a temptation to use influencer and creator just as a performance channel and not really see it for the brand building and opportunity that it does actually have. And I think that the problem is brands typically combine lots of KPIs. So they'll say, we want to build awareness, but we also need it to drive sales. And I think you have to kind of take a more longer term view and a more strategic approach. There are campaigns that will help you build your brand, make people fall in love with your brand. And there are campaigns that are going to then drive sales, and you can use a different type of strategy, whether that's coming into TikTok Shop or really thinking about how you leverage social commerce tools like lives and different dynamics where creators can actually be really driving that sale. So I think that, the red flags for me are when the KPIs aren't clear, the North Star isn't clear, there's multiple KPIs happening at once. And I think actually that's when you're just kind of muddling what that campaign could really be. And I think it's super hard for the creator as well in that situation.
Yeah, true. And I guess we need to, what I'm getting from what you mentioned, that it's always been perceived that there is a competition between performance marketing and influencer marketing in terms of an ROI or in terms of ROAS perspective. We're spending a number of dollars here and we're spending $100 here, for example, and we are measuring which one is more profitable to the business or more revenue generated for the business, so we can decide to spend more on it. Like this kind of transactional mindset when it comes to approaching the two types of marketing. But what I'm getting from you is that number one, that the two channels can work together.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Number two is we need to think strategically when it comes to influencers and creators, not just a one campaign, not just a one post. We need to think about it. This is for brand building, and also this is for performance, and how the two campaigns within influencers and creators can work together.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic, isn't it? Promotion versus persuasion, and you need to, most brands are, they need to make sure they are brand building because, we know now, particularly, I mean, TikTok released some really interesting research with Walk just a few weeks ago, which is how culture-led brands are growing 6 times more than brands that, aren't operating in culture or aren't seem to be having this sort of ownable voice in social. And we're seeing brands that are really owning their voice in social, being cheeky, doing things that are different, the weird, the wacky, the wonderful, and having fun. We're seeing those brands really outperforming. If, case in point, a brand like Liquid Death or the amazing work Marc Jacobs are doing at the moment on social, or Loewe, how much fun they're having working with different creators who have just breaking the norms in terms of what luxury advertising ever used to look like who wants all these high-end models anymore when there's these really cool creators bringing to life these luxury brands. So I think it's that balance of sort of persuasion and promotion, and you do need both. But I think you just need to be very, very clear about what it is that you're trying to do and where you're at as a brand. Performance marketing can only get you so far. You do need people to remember your brand and have some affinity to it.
Yeah.
Especially now with younger audiences, they want to understand these brands. They want to know their values. They want to know what the provenance is of the product. They want to like the staff. They want to feel that there's an interesting story there. And that's, you can do so much of that in social. So I think there's that nice balance between actually selling and actually working with the right creators that there might be more conversion focused, but then working with other creators which are giving you that lovely cultural piece and helping you be in culture and not in just the category you're in. And so I just think there's a really delicate balance to that. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because so many brands say to us, look, we want to go viral. That's like, we want to go viral, our content to go viral. But you know what? That takes a really planned and disciplined and strategic approach. Brands that are going viral, like Marc Jacobs, etc., they have a very disciplined social and creative strategy that is very harmonious and planned. They're thinking really cleverly about what type of creators they should be working with, when, what product they should be working with each individual creator, what should be product, what should be more brand led, which platforms and why. How do we engage these creators so that they can be reactive with us and not just producing this planned content? So I think there's all of that of it all as well. And I see so many brands coming to us now and saying, actually, you know what, can we look at this? Can you build us a playbook for a year? We want to actually have some type of full funnel playbook. And then we absolutely can get organised around that. And I think that's a big part of, again, just professionalising the industry, more strategy up front, thinking really ahead, and then working, the freedom of a framework, I like to say.
Yeah. Actually, this is make me thinking about a lot of things. Number one, like I can tell from experience, the best type of ads that can work within performance marketing is actually the influencer and the content creator content that has been produced, especially if we have a case that this one actually outperformed organically. If we can just amplify it through paid, this always overperforms anything else, because it's also like a social proof to the audience that not just the normal kind of ads that our ads is shown against.
Yeah.
So it helps massively to stand out. But in terms of finding the balance, as you mentioned, between when to sell and when to go for awareness or building the convincing part. Is there any tips maybe that you can give to brands and companies in order to find the balance between the two?
Well, first of all, when I think about sort of social commerce, there's a few areas. I mean, I think a really exciting space right now is visual search. So when people actually go looking for something, I mean, I was recently I was going away on holiday to Berlin, and the first thing I did was went onto TikTok to find all of the cool restaurants and walking routes and things to do in Berlin according to creators, because that's, naturally what I would do. And, more and more people are going on to, whether it's YouTube or Pinterest to get, tutorials, how to, where to's, those sorts of things. So I think from a social commerce perspective, from a hygiene, perspective, brands should make sure that they've got content available from a discoverability perspective. So when people are looking for things, certain products and services, their products and services are there. And actually, those products and services are presented a way where the onion's been unpeeled, so to speak. I mean, the beautiful thing about working with creators is this ability they've got to unpeel and to turn what is a product and a feature into actually something that means something to somebody. It's actually, they're talking about how it impacts your life in some way. It's quite interesting because there's a lot of tech brands right now that are looking to work with creators to really do that, to show especially their tech in ways that then, are real world ways of doing that. So I think from a social commerce perspective, you've got to make sure that when people are actually looking on social to get reviews and things like that, that your content is there. And then in terms of getting people in the feed, how do you work with creators that can authentically really talk about your product, that genuinely use your brand or product, and then can speak about that in ways that only they can? Choose the most diverse crew of creators that you possibly can, test all of that out in organic, and then obviously put paid behind that to then reach and engage the new audiences. But of course, you need to be producing content that's going to appeal to not just the creator's own audience in that case, but that can travel, that can work really hard for you. So I do think that is a slightly different collaborative approach than when you're working with a creator on a cool kind of culture-led program, your Amelia de Mellenberg and Bumble working to transform dating into something that's more of a cultural conversation. That's very different content to that lower funnel content where you're unpeeling the onion on a product or service in a really natural way.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just making that distinction between what is content production for paid and then what is a really cool collaboration. And you'd be surprised at how often those things get intertwined, I think. So yeah.
No, true, 100%. And if you allow me to be the devil advocate for a second, because a lot of, or at least let's say some of the CEOs or business leaders will say, okay, you need to think about this, like this kind of an initiative for 1 year as an investment. How much I'm going to put in and how much am I going to expect by the end of the year? How do you navigate this? Because how can you give business leaders the confidence that we are going to invest this X amount of money on production, on full funnel with creators, and then we're going to back it up with paid ads, and within all of this is a lot of budget. And how can we communicate the confidence to the business leaders that this investment is going to turn around?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we think about measurement at Whaler. I mean, certainly for long-term clients, the way that, and I'll come back to your main question, but we have what we call a learning agenda approach, because social ultimately is about experimentation. There's going to be certain things that really, really work for you and other things that don't, but you do have to experiment. And so you have to take this kind of test and invest and incrementality mindset. So if you're working in a long-term way, the way that we work with our clients is we have, a learning agenda. And each quarter that learning agenda is reviewed. What's working here? What's working above? At the top of the funnel, what are we doing around, have we changed perception of that product? And have we driven conversions, whatever we're really working to and what the KPIs are. And there's a number of both first party and third party tools that we will do that. We're working with some clients on media mix modeling. So we're plugged, all of our data is plugging into their MMM modeling. Okay. So that it's being compared to versus all of their other media. So look, we can look at everything from reach, and we can look at brand uplift studies. We can deploy a number of different really interesting measurement solutions to measure the impact that those campaigns and that work is having. And then, of course, you can look at everything from sentiment and how people are emotionally feeling about that campaign, right then down through to very specific sales links and clicks and, integration into e-commerce platforms and things like that. So you can measure the whole gambit now of creator marketing, and then you can measure that against all of your other media and marketing as well to really, really see what's performing better. What we're seeing at Whaler is that brands are increasing their investment into creator marketing between 30 to 40 to 50% year on year. It's working.
Wow.
That's because it's working. So, creator marketing is getting, an outsized amount of investment versus other media because it worked, because of the intimacy of the medium, because social media, in order to, to really resonate on social, you've got to blend into the platforms. You can't just blend out with these ads that interrupt people's feeds.
Exactly.
You want to blend in, and creators are producing this amazing native content, short form, they're storytelling, they're diverse, they're naturally inclusive, they're telling amazing stories. And so obviously the content is outperforming just standard branded ads that creative agencies might be producing, and they can't produce that amount of content, and they can't bring that many perspectives and narratives to it. So I think that's just where you're just seeing, we just have to, as an industry, keep on demonstrating the results and the case studies and show how we're really driving business growth at that very top level, and take the industry into talking about it in that zone rather than sort of talking about it as a performance marketing channel. It is also a brand equity channel. And brands that are really embracing that are seeing outsized growth. And we can see that now in the case studies.
Yeah, I really love that you mentioned MMM and incrementality, and actually we can go deeper into the analytics part of it. But based on your insights, how much do you see a healthy allocation of budget toward creators from the rest of the channels? Is it 5%, 10%, 20% as an aggregate based on all your
Based
clients?
on their entire marketing budgets,
Yeah.
how much? I mean, it varies. I mean, some clients are spending 50% of their marketing budget on, in creators and with social. So it does vary by client. I'd need to think a bit more about, what those investments really look like. I would say we're seeing at Whaler, certainly, specifically in the US, I feel like the US is still ahead of the other, the UAE or the UK and Europe, actually, in terms of how much they're already investing into it. I mean, just to give you a typical, we'll regularly receive RFPs for 20, 30, 40 million in the US to work across an entire portfolio, to run, put a real creator economy model right at the heart of their marketing. Because ultimately they know they need to invest across social, and working with creators is just the most scalable way of doing that. But they want to do that in a very controlled and meaningful way. They want to work with excellent creators who have been vetted, credibility scored, that they have a great contract with, a good relationship with. So, this is where the agency landscape is really, really evolving as well. But we are seeing, and if that is a forward-looking indicator from the US, that they're starting to see those types of investments, then I think that's going to have a big knock-on impact for the rest of us. I mean, certainly in the UAE, from what I'm hearing at the Billion Follower Summit, when I'm talking to people here, things aren't necessarily being done in such a sophisticated way yet from a creator perspective. It's still lots of gifting and, can you do this? And lots of conversion-based campaigns and things like that. And we're not seeing so much yet of some of the other stuff that we're seeing in the US, which is like brands developing IP with creators and TV shows and creators and, there's a lot going on. But yeah. So.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I guess here in the region, based on my experience, I can say that it's either a brand building exercise with influencers, that we're going to invest a lot of money with an influencer that we know that he is representing the brand, and also he has authenticity, and he has or she has followers. But we're just going to invest this money, and we're just going to hope it's going to work. We're not going to measure it, because at the end of the day, it's not performance driven. Or it's a performance-driven activity. When we're not going to work with the big influencers, we're going to look for smaller creators to work with them, try to give them actually gifting, and also give them commission to work with us and on a cost per sale model, and it will be easier to track. This is the two, and I believe that there is a way to combine both of them in a way that takes into consideration brand building and also the transactional or the performance marketing element to it.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think that, I know there's creators out there that love, affiliate marketing, and they love it. They're good at it. They know how to sell. They know how to convert. They know how to dimensionalize product. Brilliant. And I know, we're seeing platforms like LTK, having massive impact. And I think that's a really exciting platform. And I think, if I was a sort of more on the performance side of things, I'd be certainly looking at what people are searching for on the internet, and then getting smaller creators to produce those videos. Because I think actually from a performance perspective, I'd be like, right, that's clearly how people's minds are
Yeah.
thinking. Let's use that data to get our content creator videos. I'm the co-chair of the Influencer Marketing Trade Body. And so I would like us to continually strive to professionalise the space and also to help creators make this a full-time career. And I do think when, you start to make this your full-time gig, you need to be paid, you need to, earn money, guaranteed income. And I think actually the audiences and the communities that these creators are building and their capabilities and the work they're doing is, we don't want to burn out our creators. We want to make sure that we're building a really thriving creator economy. So I just think there's probably just a bit of a balance there with all of that. If we think about, I'm ex-music industry and, we pretty much... One of the big reasons I left the industry was because, we didn't treat talent very well. I worked for Universal Music and, yes, some of the artists there had amazing careers, but some of them got really bad record contracts. They didn't get, they were treated not well, And so, even big artists now barely make anything on Spotify. I just hope that for the creator economy, we don't do that. We've got to treat our talent well and make sure that they receive the right amount of income for their time, their services and what they're doing. We all have that responsibility on us to do that at this kind of stage of the creator economy.
Yeah, 100%, especially if there is an opportunity to have it as a win-win relationship with creators and also with brands. It's only a matter of to have the patience and the strategic thinking to think about this strategically, and then to have the capability to build the measurement right. If you have those three aspects, you'll be able to see it's actually a win-win. Working and paying your creators is actually a profitable investment for you. It's only a matter of time, measurement, and strategy.
Exactly. And I think when you start paying creators, like I say, you can start to have a different type of relationship with them, and they're thinking about you even when they're not supposed to be thinking about you. And you're getting away from all this like cost per this and vanity metrics, and you're thinking, how do we actually have a collaboration with this creator, not just on TikTok or Instagram, but how do we access their closed groups that they might be in? They might have a community meetup that they do. They might be producing an event that you can be part of as a brand. And suddenly you get this more holistic partnership. And I think it's probably going to move into like fewer, bigger, better, just really integrated partnerships with creators who can genuinely bring something different, and that might be, hey, can you help us produce a bunch of content that's going to help us drive lower funnel and drive that conversion up into the, hey, we want to be part of your community that you're running and you're doing X, Y, and Z, and we want to be part of that. So we see brands now from a whaler perspective as well, not just coming to us and saying, oh, hey, we want to work with, we want to reach females that are, 18 to 25 that live in London. They're saying to us, hey, we want to be big in the running community. And then we'll go and approach it as well in a really different way, which is how do we find people that are really active within the running community and what are they doing? What are all the things they're up to? And how can that brand add some value to that community and be part of it in a more interesting way. And I love that. And I love the way it's going. We're moving away from outdated social grading into something that's more community focused, like focused around people's passions and things like that as well, which I love the way we're going in that space.
No, what you said is actually so true. And I have a story. I remember a couple of years ago, I worked closely with a CEO from Kuwait, and he pushed me and the team to work closely with specific couple of influencers despite lack of measurement at all. And I was like, okay, let's test it. And we tested it. And actually, it taught me a lot about the Kuwaiti market and also the GCC market in general, that is community driven. That this influencers, if he's working with you, he's going to talk about your brand in the circular community, on the Majlis late at night, on the meeting up at late at night, and he's going to talk to your friend. And that actually building brand equity and sales, because it's all here. It's so much like private community and supporting of local brands.
Totally. And that's where the taste is now. Taste making in different communities is, that's where it's at. This is the new type of editorial. These are the new magazine publishers, if you like. And, we're just about to work with a really interesting fashion cycling brand, and they realise that their social media just is almost quite worthy, their social media. It's kind of not particularly fun. And actually cycling's really joyful. And there's loads of different communities connected with cycling. There's a coffee culture. There's people are doing cycling holidays now, and sustainability and carbon neutral and urban cycling, and cycling's a thing, and lots of people, it doesn't matter how old you are, do it, and you quite like having quite nice gear. People like looking good as well. So like there's all these communities and subcultures now for them to tap into. It's not just, oh, can we work with like leading cycling athletes that actually no one really can quite understand or engage with, but what about all the people that are actually really leading the coffee community around cycling and engage them? And I think that for me, that is like, I love the way it's going in that direction, community first, almost looking at that when you're casting creators as well. Which communities are there? Who are the cultural leaders within those communities? How do we engage in a really fresh way and add value? So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is pretty insightful. And I guess once you identify the communities and the leaders within the communities, then you start tailoring your strategy from brand building towards sales, when we're going to talk about brand building and when are we going to talk about sales and all of that.
Definitely. And there is a room for both. And I think, ultimately, if a brand is partnering as a creative partnership with a creator, there's going to be an element of, at some point, there might be a get ready with me video or some type of product tutorial, but then it all feels like a natural part of the collaboration. It feels like, or we've invited the creator down to the store today, but then the next post is more about a journey that they're going on, they're taking their cycling journey or something that's connected to it. So you're blending both, but in a more authentic way than just a random post from a creator trying to sell something, which again can feel quite disconnected, unless it is very much a creator that's more of a converter affiliate type creator where people expect them to be doing that type of content, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
I guess the sad truth is that most of the time the way that people try to run creator and influencer campaign as if they are setting it for failure from the beginning. It's only like one time off, and even it can even get so sad that even when the influencer or the creator go to the store in order to shoot the products or to make the story and the content, and no one told the store manager about he's coming, especially if you're talking about big companies with multiple retail stores and all of that, and they have to fetch the product is not ready, a lot of missing pieces that actually as if we want to test it, but deep down we are setting it for failure, unfortunately.
Well, a lot of it's to do with the teams and stuff you've got running. And I think now that CMOs and sort of more C-suite within brands are starting to think, okay, we really need to invest in this space. We need to make sure that we've got the right leadership behind it at the brand level. We've got our team, the right team set up internally. Are we working? What agencies are we working with? How have we onboarded those agencies? How are we bringing creators closer to us and listening to their insights? And how are we measuring this in line with our other media and marketing so that we can compare? We can make sure we're making scientific decisions about how much we're investing into this space. And if we're just looking at vanity metrics, then it's not going to, we have to compare everything and in the round. And so I think a part of it is leadership now. Brands have to think, right, who's running this part for us? What team are they building? And I still see it in so many brands, even in the UK, where we're a fairly advanced market at this. There's one influencer marketing manager trying to do absolutely everything themselves. They're trying to, sign creators, brief them, do everything, come up with strategy, and they're burning out and they're tired and there isn't a strategy there. And they might get gold, they might get one good viral post, but I think that's where things just have to change and brands need to think, right, what's the team now that are doing this? Are they well enough resourced? And what's the impact going to be of that, which we can now measure?
No, 100%. I guess one of the key learnings that I got from the 1 Billion Summit is that, especially on 2025 now, every leader, CEO, has to set the mission so clear that creator economy should be a mission for his or her company, meaning he should give the support to the team, continuous support. What are we doing on each and every monthly meeting or quarterly meeting? What are we doing for the creator economy? How are we advancing with this, especially once we see the data? We saw the data yesterday from how the potential of creating economy and how it is now a must for brands to contribute to it. So it's not only about having a one influencer manager or even two to start moving around a lot of pieces within the corporate, but it's also more about the support that the senior leaders can give, continuous support to the team, that this is something important, to the different department, to the retail department, to the other department, maybe that they are not so involved with marketing and all things around marketing, so they can actually support the mission of the company that to advance in creator economy in 2025.
We talk about creator marketing as like the CMO's secret growth weapon. I mean, it hasn't even been unleashed really to its full capacity yet.
Yes.
And I think once it does, you know, ultimately brands, I hear a lot of brands talking about how they want to sort of influence relevancy. And I think there was lots of talk about like personalization at scale and this whole idea that people want to be spoken to. And they follow creators because often they mirror their lives. They're at the same stage of their lives, or they've followed those creators. I mean, I've got creators that I follow that they're publishing 5 times a day, and I'm literally following their life. I'm semi their best friends, basically. You're probably the same.
Exactly,
you probably have exactly the same. You have a different type of relationship with a creator than any other type of media. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying traditional media is dead. I still love amazing outdoor. I still love a good TV ad. Don't get me wrong, I think there's room. It's like journalism and news. I don't think everything should be about citizen journalism. I think there's also a really, you know, important role for mainstream news and things like that. So, but I do think that this space does need more professionalising. It needs more C-suite to get behind it, understand it, learn, support, give the team shape and structure, and try and do it in a more elevated way, and really listen to these creators and talk to them. I have spent so much time at this festival talking to creators, from massive YouTubers to emerging creators as well here in the UAE, and they're like these points of light. Their positive energy and their outlook is so exciting. I love these creators. I love, honestly, I've had so many incredible conversations with them and feeling so inspired through spending time with them. And so it's just nice space to be in.
Yeah, amazing. And I guess a key indicator that we can always learn from is actually from Dubai and the UAE. They're investing a lot of money for this conference every year for a reason. If it's not that important, they will not be investing, bringing all those creators and big names from across the globe to the UAE for 3 days to add so much value. So always there is a lesson to learn here about this. Is something that is super important, that every business nowadays should have a strategy around creator economy and how can they grow within creator economy.
Well, I think hats off to, you know, Dubai. And I mean, they've flown in, you know, the who's who in the creator economy, amazing creators. The talks have been excellent. The summit has been absolutely fantastic. We're all staying in a lovely hotel. We're meeting in the morning. People are seeing each other, connecting. And I think the vision is to increase sort of creator economy GDP by 5%. Or there's a target, I know. And doing things like this is obviously a huge, makes such a massive difference. I'd love the UK government to take a leaf out of its book, because I feel like so many other governments now, obviously I think are looking at especially what happened in the US with Trump and how he just really changed his media game, and he was on Joe Rogan and he was going on to all of these podcasts and being totally raw and authentic, not staging them, just like you and I are doing now, just chatting, chewing the breeze. And actually that really paid off, you know, big time. And I think governments now are starting to say these are, you know, not only the future of creativity, but they're really highly persuasive. They can be purveyors of good news, bring people together. And I think it's been an immense event, the Billion Follower Summit. So, and I'm very, very grateful to have been included and part of the lineup, actually.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed my time in the summit, and also meeting you and the rest of the guests. It was super insightful as well. So before we go, I guess you mentioned like a website,
LTK.
LTK. I never heard about it. What is LTK?
It used to be called Reward Style, and it's where I believe I need to do a bit more research on this. But you can, if you're a creator, you can build your affiliate platform on there. So you can then easily, I think, link to different shops and stores and things, and generate affiliate revenue through that platform. So I think if you're a creator, you'll go on there and you'll figure out what products and things you could be promoting. You can choose, and then you can start promoting those products. So obviously when people are going onto LTK to search, they're searching for what products might be trending and things like that. So it's quite an interesting business. I think visual search is a bit of the next frontier for creators really and brands, especially on that lower funnel performance side of things. Because I think when you think about the algorithm, you have like a push and pull.
Yes.
And actually, you know, it's one thing what you get in your feed and you want that to be almost the entertainment, the fun stuff or the news. But then actually what you're searching for is often something that's more product led or, you know,
With
review
intent
focused
behind it,
with
yeah.
intent.
Yeah.
So you actually, I think there's probably an opportunity to capitalise on that. But have a look at LTK. I think it means let me know or like I know. You'll have to clarify
okay,
that
we'll
one. I've got so many things going on in my head at the moment, I can't quite remember.
No worries. And in terms of, okay, so for companies that they want to go deep or go invest harder with creator economy, what kind of tools or processes that you can suggest to them?
I mean, certainly at Whaler, we have our own proprietary tech. So we run all of our campaigns through our tech, which is called Echo. We've also developed a proprietary tool called Foam, which is like an operating system for creators. So if you're a creator or a talent manager, you can sign up to Foam and get amazing insights about your social media, your campaigns, the work you're doing, the space you're in. So Foam is something that also our team use as well. And then outside of that, we have other tools and platforms that we use. So we have, you know, we have licenses to things like Tagger to help us find and identify creators, Tubular. We'll use the platforms like TikTok have TTCX, and they'll have platforms, marketplaces that you can use. So we very much pair our expert team with all of the leading tools. We use Element Human for brand uplift studies. You know, we have a tech stack that enables us to find, strategize, get insights. You know, we'll leverage eMarketer, GWI, all of those sorts of tools and platforms that we'll use, our team will then use and then build. You know, we have AI built into pretty much all of our workflows now. AI will help us also on vetting creators. So we have a tool called Orca, which enables us to easily, if we've put together a very curated list of creators, we can then use Orca to vet every aspect of their sort of content, what they're saying, the tone, who they've worked with before, language. We can test for multiple keywords and things like that. And then our team then obviously makes sense of that. And, so yeah, heavily using tech, but also lots of human. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges with creator marketing as well, to the last point. It is quite handy work.
Yeah,
it's
true.
high touch. There was a time when I think everyone was sort of talking about creator marketing like it was like the new frontier in programmatic, which it totally isn't. It's such a human game. And that's why you also can't just have an influencer marketing manager just doing it. You know, at Whaler, we've got data scientists, we've got people that can use all of the tools, we've got strategists, creative directors, we've got campaign managers, legal and business affairs. Wow. Then you're paying creators, you've got people doing all of the measurement across every stage of the funnel, learning agendas, campaign wrap reports. You know, you've got the whole gambit there working across to then, be laddering up to then the North Star for a brand, which is making sure you're actually driving growth in the right way.
And also I guess the question in my mind now is about when is a customer or a client or a company can say, now, okay, this is the right time for me to work with a dedicated company for that, or can I build it myself?
In-housing? Yeah, we see both. I mean, we've got clients that do everything themselves in-house, and they'll use a company like Whaler for the strategy. So they'll say, look, we need... So, for example, we worked with Joe Malone. They work across 85 different markets, and they felt their influencer marketing was really decentralised, really all over the place, working really differently in each market, which obviously when you're a brand like Joe Malone, which is, a beautiful luxury brand, really, that holds so much, brand integrity, having all of that, really differentiating themes and work out there, it doesn't necessarily help the brand actually. So we did a global playbook which then 85 markets then use to really as their there's their TikTok guide, if you like. So there's multiple parts of that playbook, but it has been really transformational for them actually. So I think that's just the approach needs to happen like that. But from an executional perspective, we often find with clients that they'll say to Whaler, we don't actually need any help executing. but then eventually, you know, they
later. Yeah.
They do, because they ultimately, it's, you know, there's over 300 million creators now. Like, how do you find the right creator? You know, we've got a team that are just so specialist at that. You know, that's so time consuming for a brand to do, is to find and identify and vet the right creators. So things have really changed. It went through, and as they always do, there's cycles, right? There's always brands that say, oh, we're going to do all of this in-house. We do it ourselves. We can do this. And don't get me wrong, like brands like Gymshark, you know, they have an amazing in-house, you know, influencer program, and they've really built their business from that. But they've really made that really at the center of their business. Whereas other brands like CPG brands, it's much harder for them to do all of this themselves in-house. And they're now coming and saying, hey, what does a cross-portfolio play look like? How can you guys manage everything for us, aggregate everything for us, make sure that we know exactly what we're paying creators in which market, make sure there's some distinction in assets so that people do know it's our brand, you know, so it's not so fragmented. And I think that's, you know, yeah, that's the way things are going. The creator AOR, 25 is the year of the year creator AOR.
No, 100%. So, Emma, is there any closing note you would like to end this episode with around, what we've discussed today?
Closing note. Well, I guess that, you know, from our perspective, I think there's still so many brands that are, you know, sitting on their fringes, if you like. Yeah. And I think now is the time to, you know, really, really jump in, try lots of things, as I say, test, invest, be open to experimentation, be open to creators and, you know, their different storytelling, the worlds they're building, try and understand their worlds and go into their worlds. You know, think about how you blend in, not blend out of social. Think about how you let these creators, you know, decode the platforms, but be your brand voice, you know, really deliver this lovely human connection that only really creators can do. And ultimately, you know, measure what matters and think in a really long-term way about the creators and the strategies you're putting in place, connecting to your work with creators.
Yeah, awesome. Well put. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Reach for growth, reach for more. Performance marketing hardcore. Tune in, listen.